Hey, what's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of the Finance Bro, where we have real conversations with real people about money. Today, I have a special guest on my show, one of my dear friends, Ethien Morales. I'm excited to have a conversation with him because he, along with a lot of the other people that I have on this show, have a wealth of knowledge. And one of the things I like about him is he was able to attain a lot of the knowledge that he has on his own and overcome a lot of obstacles. So hopefully he's able to share some things with you guys today that you can, begin to implement in your own lives to change the paths of, your life with personal finances and your family's future with finances. So without further ado, Etienne, please introduce yourself, my brother.
Hey, how's it going, Eric? Long time no see. Not really. Sorry, like 2 weeks ago. But my name is Ethien Morales. I'm currently a captain in the United States Marine Corps. I'm a C-130 pilot by trade and currently an instructor pilot down at NAS Corpus Christi, and then a part-time entrepreneur, part-time real estate investor, avid crypto enthusiast. Currently, or at the peak, at about $1 million worth of real estate, and currently in the process of offloading it now that it's basically at the peak and pivoting into the bloody market, as everybody can see on this beautiful day in June 2022. How's it going? But yeah, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. Came from a pretty humble family. My pops, my stepdad, two-time felon. My mom was an immigrant here from Puerto Rico. Grew up Section 8. Grew up, economically disadvantaged like everybody, in South Side San Antonio. And then first my family graduated from college, and then basically been in the Marine Corps ever since, trying to do good stuff. Played NCAA football as well as track, varsity led first year. So I try to check all the boxes so I can tell my kids you can achieve anything in the future, So like, hey, your pops did X after next back in the day, so you can too. Got it. So that's just a little bit about me. That's like the basic nitty gritty, elevator speech, I guess. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What org? Tell them what org you're part of too.
Yeah, I'll make it South 510 corporate. All that, all that stuff.
Hey, so
but you speak so well. Nah, the bros are educated, man. We smart. Marines, and Marines don't eat crayons too.
That's a fact.
We do. Even though the red ones taste the best. What's up?
So, yeah. Hey, kind of to start everything off today, I know you just told them the background of where you came from, and I think that's very important to kind of lead this conversation because I think it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to show that, no matter what circumstances you come from, if you want it, you can achieve it. You just got to be willing to put in the work. So kind of getting started, would you say that, I know the answer to this, but just for the public, would you say that the surroundings that you grew up in and the things that you experienced growing up are one of your direct motivations for the things you do now with your personal finances?
I would say that people, at least from my background, that people that are come up economically disadvantaged or in a tough neighborhood, it's difficult to take the usual advice of listen to your parents, listen to the people around you. Because that might work if you're in a great neighborhood and you're like, upper middle class, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, the things that people have done in those circumstances will lead you to the right light. But if you're in a bad spot, you don't want to listen. Like, you take advice from people where you want to be at. And if you're not where you want to be at, don't listen to the people that are there, So a lot of the time, me growing up, it had to be a lot of arrogance, like good teenage arrogance of I'm not going to listen to you because I don't think that's right. I'm going to do it my way. And then it always, not always, but it took me until being like in college where like, okay, now I have to start rethinking my approach to things because it might not be like, the right thing. Like when I remember growing up, people be like, you'd be like 15, like, all right, start going to work. Like when you're 15, I mean, well, I did work, I bought my own car and stuff like that, but people would err to the side of going to like be a bag boy at HEB, the grocery store in Texas, vice working on like your grades or like that just to get to a better college or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like just like a little misnomer like that. But for the most part, just, I've based the majority of my personal decisions based off of personal experiences and how you, what is it? 90% of life is 90% of life is how you adjust to it, not by how it's received to you, like that type of thing. It's like, all right, so, this situation might happen and either you're going to flourish or you're going to falter. Like, like the boiling water hardens the egg, but softens the potato. It's literally all you can get. How many ways you want to flip that saying, but yeah, like the majority of my life has really just been pivoting off of what's happened and how I can finesse a situation out of it and make it how to work. So yeah, like even if it's bad or it's good, like it's always how can I optimize what I have going on. And the goal that I currently have set at 12-year-old Etienne, how does that go or coincide with, 30-year-old Etienne? Because I remember I was in high school and I was having like not a panic attack, but I was worried about what I was going to do at 32 because I had my life planned out. Like I'm going to do this, this, and this. So like just having that mentality of, all right, despite what goes on, this is the plan, and I'm gonna keep working towards the plan, because if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail it. But yeah, that's enough little old haiku wisdom like nugget things. But yeah, stuff like that. Like there's so many ways you get, like, especially as an adult now, especially as a grown man, like there is no way you're gonna tell me I can't do something that I deem is possible. Like ain't a man alive that's about it. Especially like as a husband, I'm like, ain't no way you're about to stop me from creating prosperity for my family from here to come up, like from here forward. Like as a
Yeah.
future patriarch, you ain't gonna tell me nothing. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like you can think that, but that's a bet. Like I've proven everybody time and time again that I'm gonna do exactly what I said. So go for it. So
Yes, sir. So you
yeah.
actually hit on a couple of things that I liked in that. And one of them I want to get to is you spoke about how when it came down to it, you recognize quickly basically who you should take advice from and who you shouldn't take advice from, right? So
Yep.
even from that point and up until now, what do you use to help you find out who you should and shouldn't take? Like, how do you seek someone to take advice from?
That's a very good question, because people ask, I feel like that kind of relates to like real estate too. Like, how do you know what's a good property? I'm like, I don't know. You just gotta, after you look at a couple, you just know what looks dumb. So like, I would say you have to, I mean, I guess it depends. So like in a financial sense, you mean, or
We can start with yeah, let's do a financial sense.
I mean, like somebody can be a good person. I'm like, and you can make all the money in the world and still be a dirtbag. And then like, hey, yeah, it's good. I'm not going to go for you for like decent advice for, how to be a decent human being. But as far as finance, I'm like an economics major. So, and even me just being really in a personal finance, you can just hear people talk and what they talk about and how well it coincides, like, like, and it depends on what, like, there's a million ways to make money. So how do you want to do it? If somebody wants to buy real estate, I'm like, all right, they're the real estate guy. But like for me, I personally don't like buying government bonds because it's just like, I'm not a multimillionaire, so I don't need to worry about preserving my wealth. So I'm not going to listen to the guy that's saying, "Oh, buy government bonds and Treasury inflated protection bonds." I'm like, that's not the guy. But the easiest way to be like, "Hey, what do you if what do you want to be like, or who do you want to be like?" Like I see like Trust, for example. Trust like buys restaurants consistently, an entrepreneur and different facets. I'm like, all right, I can take advice from Trust because he is where he is where I want to be, and he's doing things that I admire. So I'm gonna take advice from him. If somebody is, just I don't know, if somebody's like if you see somebody at the club every weekend blowing money on hookah and bottles and stuff like that, and then they may appear to have money, but you can basically calculate somebody's like lifestyle. So let's say you're like, if you see somebody our age and they're fresh out of college, have a $1,500 like 1-bedroom apartment, they got a brand new Dodge Charger, and then they're at the club every weekend, and they're making the average amount of money of 50 grand a year. They're not making any money. They might look like they're making money, but I'm like, no, you're spending all your money. So I'm not gonna be like you. I'm gonna be like, hey, I know X has got 3 cribs. They all make yada yada yada. Like he's my age, he's in a position similar to me, and he's doing this. What is that guy doing? Because he's in a similar background than I am. That's achievable, that I can, try and replicate. Because there's been a million paths that somebody's made money. Just you don't need to make a new path. Just like, hey, this monkey see, monkey do. He did this. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that too. And that's really it. And I feel like that's like one of the hardest things for people is they might not have that immediate network of people around them that have done something. So it's hard to be like, I mean, homeboy from somebody from the north side that's well off, that doesn't look like me, has been doing this. So I can't do that because they're not in your similar background. But if I see Trust, or if I see you, if I see, Blake or anybody like that, I'm like, hey, I see them doing it. Like, what are you doing? I know you, we're similar. Like, what have you done to get in that perspective or that viewpoint? So like, You know, it's like finding somebody that you want to replicate their successful process that is of interest and attainable to you. I feel like the super long answer to that.
No, that was a
So
that
yeah,
was a that was what's one of the reasons I like talking to you. You were able to
yeah,
articulate things very well, so that's good. But
and
kind
rant.
of to, to build on to that, so would you say it's safe to say that as a person that's seeking to better yourself, the one of the first steps to being able to, let's say, seek a mentor or someone that can teach you the right way is to take the time and make the effort to educate yourself as much as possible so that you know what to seek?
Yeah. Short answer, yeah. Because I remember, like, I bought my first fourplex when I was like 23, and then I was so proud of it because
I remember
it
that.
was like what I think I threw like $250,000 down and didn't talk to nobody about it. I was like, man, I hope this real estate YouTube, biggerpockets.com research and Googling I've been doing is gonna work out because I just slapped $250,000 debt on my name. Dang it. You know? And then literally I just remember being like not helpless, but I remember just feeling like alone because I was like, I can't talk to my parents about this because they ain't got it. I don't got any mentors. I literally remember reaching out. I was like, I was buying it in Pensacola. I was in Pensacola, Florida in flight school. And then I was buying the crib in Corpus Christi here. And I lived in it for 2 years. That was like the best play I've ever made. I'm selling it now for like making 150K on it. It's great. Like it's dope. Yeah, man, it's great. I'm about to roll that into the market when it comes up. Anyways, I remember just being like alone of just like, who can I ask about this really big decision I'm making? And that was like the toughest thing. And that's where like, I remember like Grant Cardone saying like, that's where you have to have courage to make money. I was like, yeah, you gotta have courage because you're risking. You have
Yeah.
to be you have to be sure of yourself and what you're doing and willing to bet on yourself and your decisions, be a grown man and like, and you know, and be able to put it out there for that. And I remember reaching out literally, I was just asking anybody. It was like I went on biggerpockets.com. Somebody replied to a post, or somebody had like a similar, like, oh, I just bought this place in Colorado Springs. And he was like maybe 4 or 5 years older. And I was like, hey, dude, like, hey, I'm about to buy this place. Like, I don't know who to talk to about this. Like, what do the numbers look like to you? Does this sound like a good buy? And I was like, hey, man, just call me. And I'm like, appreciate it. You know, like, because people that are winning want to see other people win that are putting in the work. Because at the end of the day, as much as people complain, there's a lot, by and large, 90% of people, 80% of people complain about the situation, but they won't do anything about it. They'll just usually look for a crux as to why they can't or who's like stopping them from doing it. And if people like winners are going to win and they're going to find a way how to win and they're going to try and help other people that are trying to win because it's such a rare action for people to take to like, I don't care what my circumstances are. I'm going to try and, you know, like that's just such a rare commodity as a person to find. So I literally asked him, random dude, never met, you know, hey, like, you know, it's, you know, a total rent's like $3,500. I'm buying it for X, property taxes are this. It's in this area. I'm planning on staying in one of the units, house side, yada, yada, yada. Like, what do you think? And it's like, yeah, bro, absolutely. And then you're going like, and then I had a VA home loan. So I went 0% down and I paid down the interest and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, it's a great buy. Like, go ahead. And I'm like, all right, well, cool. And then February 1st, 2020, 2017, or whatever heck year that was, I walked in, signed all the paperwork. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm a homeowner or a little multifamily owner. And like, that was it. So
now,
yeah.
since we're talking about Barry, your first real estate deal, right? What did you do with your with your personal finances prior to being able to make that purchase to make sure that you were in a position to be able to do it, right? Because one of the things that I've been stressing a lot lately is, you know, people stress ownership, right? And they're talking about ownership, but no one's teaching people that there's steps involved with things you've got to do with your personal, before you are even able to get to the point of ownership, right? Like you can't just jump from having multiple collections accounts and a savings account with $100 in it to owning to being able to purchase something like that, right? So what did you do, and like what was your process and your goal with that to make sure that you were good, and how did you find out what you even needed to have?
That was basically a product of life experiences. I mean, to be able to buy a place or a fourplex when like 23, 24, that's like years in the making. And those years started when I was like 12, you know, like at the end of the day, you can't afford something you can't afford. So like the main big hurdle is to make more money. You know, like there was like $60 trillion in the world economy. Darn it, find a job that pays you what you need to get paid to get like a decent lifestyle, you know? Because you can save your what you make to help, but you can't buy $800,000 multifamily spot, make it 50 grand. Ain't no way cut about it. I mean, you could buy it using hard money and, you know, creative financing, all that stuff. But the straight down and dirty way to do it is I have money. I can leverage it by, you know, cutting down on my expenses, saving enough, yada, 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 and then doing it by that way. So the first thing I would always say is find a job or find a career or build a business that provides you enough cash flow to actually be able to afford the things you want to buy. And then once you actually have that money, don't lifestyle creep. And what I mean by lifestyle creep is, okay, cool. I'm in college. I made no money. Now I make $4,000 a month. And now I'm about to spend all that on rent, a new car, and and then at the end of everything, you don't have the money you want to spend or invest into anything, you know. And then you just stay in that constant, like, great, I have a $500 a month like slot to do whatever I want, and that you're not gonna invest anything with that. So main thing is make some more money. And the second thing is, when I was in TBS, I remember that was like my first 3 months of being an adult with like salaried Marine Corps officer. And I was blowing like the first 2-3 months all on going out, eating, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, every single month, I don't have any money left. I'm like, it's kind of dumb. And I just started like, I'm like, I have like 20K, whatever, in student loan debt. Like, I should probably pay that off. Like, and then I don't have to worry about anything really. Cause then at that point I don't have a car loan. So I guess the short answer is this. So there's like 3 things people spend their money on. That is housing, a car, food, and then like whatever like auxiliary debt they have, credit card, student loan, yada, yada, yada. And then you have to short all those. You have to short your housing expense. You have to short your car, your automobile expense, whether gas, insurance, or just car payment in general. And then you're going out to eat or eating expense. So stop going out to eat, stop drinking really a lot, and then get rid of whatever debt you may have. Because if you're making $5,000 a month and you're blowing 4,500 of it, you're not really living. You're just spending it all. Yep. So as soon as you can wrangle all that money back to keep, so you can throw it, like just throw it at an investment, you know? Yeah, exactly. Like then you have one, I feel like it's a better way to live because you have breathing room. Because then it's like, okay, I lose my job now, then I'm good. You know, I don't have $4,500 a month of things that I'm paying for just on my shoulders. You know, have that kind of stress. And then 2, like you have like this big delta of like ability to do things with, you know, either go trips, you just have more freedom. Like, you know, there's no point in making all the money in the world if you're obligated and kind of enslaved to keep paying for things, you know? Yeah. So make the money and then lower your expenses so you can have a big bag every month to just do whatever you want with it, you know? And just have the freedom to, you know, move how you want. And then also when you have those big obligations, if you have a $600, $700 a month car payment for Scat Pack Charger or whatever, and then you have like a big credit card debt or student loans, when a bank looks at you, they be like, dog, you make $5,000 a month and $4,000 of it is allotted to expenses. Where is your money to, like, you know, to what do you call it, to pay for this house? When the AC breaks and that's $5,000, where's that coming from? Like, are you going to stop making your house payment, or what? When the roof needs to get replaced, where's that coming from? So, well, as much as people complain about credit and like, oh, it's so unfair, at the end of the day, it's set up to be like, hey, how responsible is this human being right now? Because I'm about to give him $300,000 and I want to get paid back because I'm loaning him money and I want to get paid back and make a little bit of money on it for me giving him my money. So you got to look at yourself like, how responsible human being am I? And how safe am I as a bet to be paid back? So make the money, lower the expenses, and then I can also give actionable processes for each one of those 3 to how you can, you know, cut your bread. You can either house hack, you can do the little garage house studio apartment thing that I did.
Oh, that was actually that was dope. You have to talk about that. Yeah, that's later.
But like there's because I remember Greg Eason, one of my honorary line brothers.
Yeah.
I went to Newport News because he was giving a financial seminar to people around there, like the local community center. And then he was saying, like, you don't need that $500 a month payment. You don't need that $20,000 car, $25,000, $30,000 car when you make 30 grand a year. You can get a $5,000 car. And like that, just like everywhere else, people are just like, you can't do that. And I'm like, did you try? And somebody else in the crowd is like, I got a $5,000 car. Like I made a payment on it. It's like $50 a month. It's like, and it works fine. I'm like, bam, bet, see, boom, from $500 a month to $50 a month, say $450 a month. Now you can do whatever you want with that. There's your vacation money if you want to blow it on that, whatever. But gives you breathing room. But there's so many ways to cut it if you're just a grown man and just find a way how to do it and finesse something. So yeah, that's my answer, my really long answer.
No, so that's good because and kind of one of the big things there is hitting on like sacrifice, right? Because you gotta be
not really. I would say it's not really sacrifice, well, like it's for the betterment.
It is. Yeah. It is, right? But people are so I work with a lot
people
of clients
think of it as
right, because it's like, oh, I can't eat out or I can't buy these clothes that I want. Like, so they see it as a sacrifice on the things they want, right? But it all, like, it's one of the things I talk about where I feel like people don't have the ability to see the bigger picture, right? It's like, you might have to sit down and pay down these debts for the next 8 or 9 months, but like on the other side of that, like all your money's yours and you can determine what you do with it. You know what I'm saying? And then because you put in all that work, for most people, I would hope that now their energy would be to, hey, I can't let this money leave again. I'm not going to put myself in this situation to do that. And now you start being able to do things to build wealth. And now you can start looking at properties and, doing all these other things.
Now you have options.
Yeah, right.
Now you have options because like the path that you've set forth is this, because the average American is like what, $30,000 in debt, overweight, unhealthy, and they have no like positive outlook on life because they're stuck in that, not making any extra money, not investing any of it, and then just obese, out of shape, and getting unhealthy. So like if you set forth, like let's say you keep going out to eat every month, cool. That's like with inflation now, it's like $30-$40 a meal or something like that. And then cool, like usually it's way too many carbs, way too many fats, and it's burning a hole in your pocket. It's making you unhealthy when you could just meal prep at home where it saves you time because you can make a bulk of it. You know exactly what you're eating. You can make it as calorically restrictive or whatever as you want to put you in the right physical shape that you want. So it saves you time, saves you money, and it's healthier for you. And the only con is, I guess you have to, depending on how big of a meal you make, you have to eat it multiple times a day. And that's like the personal discipline of just eating the same thing. But if you make it good, I'm like, great, I've made some delicious chicken and rice, yada, 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 some Chick-fil-A sauce is hitting. Like, what's the problem with that? So like, that's, I don't know. It all depends on what you deem is worthy enough. If you don't want to give up, whatever going out to eat, and you think that's better than the financial future of your kids and your family, go for it. But like, know that in response of you not having physical, like personal discipline to like, invest in your future and your family's future, like, somebody's going to pay for it. And it's gonna be your kids, and that, to me, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, my life is not for me. My life is for the future, for my grandkids, my great grandkids that I don't have yet. Like, it's all in the bigger picture for that. And when you look at it like that, it's like, oh, not a big deal. Like, whatever, I'm going to go do X instead because, it's better for everybody and not just personal short-term satisfaction of eating crappy food or something.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually real big. That's something I want to start later on. I'm gonna really start getting into is promoting it because along with meal prepping and getting healthy, because that's part of it too, is I think anyone would notice. I mean, besides that, and I'm not talking about like adding supplements and all that, but just the basic like meal prepping and you eating healthy foods and only buying what you need and not buying junk and all that stuff. People's grocery bills decrease significantly.
Thick,
and it's crazy but not only now you're because you're focused on what you're eating and you're focused on your health, that automatically removed hundreds of dollars that you were spending and took that back to your pocket just by focusing on how you feel as a person and your health. And so that's something I really want to actually start trying to put out there more, because a lot of people do like, oh, I don't have time to meal prep. I don't do it. Yeah, it takes a couple hours to meal prep, but like you lay on the couch watching Netflix for 6 hours on Sunday. You can't take two of those.
It takes an hour to make all your chicken and rice lunches. And then that's an hour saved out of each individual day that you would have wanted to go get something to eat and come back. Yada. So at the end of the day, all it takes is an initial investment on Sunday or on Wednesday if you want to break it up, yada, yada, yada. And then you save the money. And I remember that, like you're saying, the grocery bill. I remember my buddy, because me, like I kind of not I have like a really strict budget. I remember when my wife was out in med school, like I was literally buying all of my groceries and it would come out to like $50 a month or $50 a week, I think.
Yep.
But then my buddy was like, how the heck? Ain't no way. Like I remember I had it to the point where I was living off of like $1,000 a month because because of the whole garage thing. I don't have any utility bills really. I didn't have a rent or mortgage that I had to pay. I didn't have a car note. I had the Viper, but then at that point I sold it. So I was like rolling like without that. So literally every month I would live on less than $1,000. And like my buddy thought it was like, there's no way you're doing that. Oh, like on food alone, I spent 800 on groceries. And I'm like, dude, he spent $800 a month on groceries.
What are you
And
buying?
it's like, yeah, it's like for me and my wife, like we eat good. And I'm like, me too. But I'm like, I don't know how you're freaking spending 800. I don't know how you spent $800 for. Like I was like, it's $400 a pop. Like, what are y'all buying? And it's like the dude was a big guy, and I think so. I was like, what are y'all doing? But then you just see all the superfluous things, and I'm like, oh,
All the
okay,
junk.
cool.
All the
You got
junk.
milk pops, and ice cream sandwiches. I'm like,
Yep.
there you go. That'll do it.
All the stuff you
That'll
don't
do it.
need, right? Like
Exactly. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So yeah. When he said that, I was like, that reminds me of that. So
yeah, that's and that's typically one of the first ways I tell people, yo, you stop eating out, you get it on a meal prep plan, and the
hardest one.
You're gonna see yourself save hundreds of dollars right there, just that alone. And you're gonna start to feel better because you're active. And know, even if you're not working out, you're going to feel better because you're eating better. You're going to start noticing your body changing because you're eating better. And then it's just everything's going to have it cycles, and it's like a circle that it goes in. But, since you mentioned it, and I think this is a good time to come back up, you're talking about the garage, right? So I know there's a conversation that we have a lot amongst our friend group. And, I've done it, you've done it. And, we know a couple other people have done it in regards to renting out like rooms, right? So say you get a house, like I got a house, I got one room that's been rented out, and that covers, half, if not all of the mortgage. There was a time where I didn't pay a mortgage for like a year, I got other people who tell like, hey, if you got this house and you're not using it, rent the rooms out and get that extra income coming in. So that's money that you're saving. So, and I know that's something that you push to a lot of people, and you've done it yourself. So can you go through that thought process on your end and how you came about it?
Yeah, you can do it the expensive way or the inexpensive way. So my very first property that I bought was that one fourplex. And in the military thing, you get a thing called BAH. And I think so you get paid a basic allowance for housing. And so you get paid your base pay, and then you get your BAH. And the BAH, you get paid extra, and corporate is like $1,800 a month. And that was about what my mortgage was on the fourplex. But the fourplex made like $3,200 a month. But then if it was all fully rented out, but I lived in one of the units. So after, 32 minus 750, that's like $2,500. After that, like that would pay my mortgage. I had my own 750 square foot, two bed, one bath apartment in my fourplex that I lived there for free. Everybody else paid my mortgage for me. And then I kept a little bit extra. And then I had my own unit. Like I wasn't giving up anything. I had my own little house. I had my own apartment, and everybody paid for it. And everybody else had their own housing. And I kept the place nice. I wasn't a dirtbag like landlord or anything, because at the end of the day, like as nice as you keep it, as nice as you keep your units, it's as nice as the people willing to move into them are gonna be. So keep your places nice and don't be a terrible human being on that. But that's the easiest way to do it, because then you have your own house. You're not giving up any privacy, and you still, they still pay down your mortgage. You still make income, yada yada yada. And then I took it a step further. One of my buddies that graduated from Texas State with me, he also was going to go through flight school, and I was like, I ain't using this other bedroom except for office. I could just rent out this bedroom and then my house hack apartment complex. So he would pay me an extra like $350 or whatever, like half the price of a bedroom or of a unit was, and then I would get added on to like how much money I was making. So that's the least cumbersome way to do it, as far as like, oh, but I don't want to have roommates. You can do a fourplex, a duplex, because typically if you buy a duplex or whatever, if you live in one of them, it highly subsidizes your standard of living. So instead of throwing $1,500 a month for like last week or 2 days ago, the average monthly rent in the United States was like $2,000. So imagine what you would do with an extra $2,000 a month in perpetuity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's say from here on out, if you can get your wife, whatever, on board with it. Let's say from here on out, you always have a multifamily or something like that, and you just keep buying that. You never have to spend money for where you live, and that's like the biggest expense for the vast majority of people. And how
Mm-hmm.
much more money you would have to put into your kids, into whatever business or whatever investments, if you just never spend money on that alone. So
Mm-hmm.
that's if you do the whole fourplex thing. Cool. You might not be able to find some in the area. There might not be any available, because that's a situation that happened with me. Once I was done with my 2 years of flight school, I had to go to North Carolina. And in North Carolina, like people know, there is no fourplexes, duplexes. You have to get big, giant apartment complexes that are millions of dollars, or you get single family homes, 3 bed, 2 baths, something like that. That's what happened to me. So I got used to, and that's what you get used to. Like, if you get used to a certain standard of living, or what you get accustomed to, you'll keep kind of going to that if you want to do it. If I was used to buying or renting out $2,000 apartment, yada yada yada, and then you just got stuck on that, you would keep doing that bad decision. But I did the whole live for free thing, basically. And once you do that, it's hard to go back. Let me tell you. Once you don't pay rent, or once you don't get your rent paid for via some avenue, like, you're like, man, like, why am I ever gonna pay somebody to live? That's ghetto, man. Like, I'm not doing that. So I got a 4 bed, 2 bath, 2,400 square foot house in North Carolina, because there wasn't any. There was quadplexes, but they were like run down, like built in
Yeah.
1911, terrible. So I ended up getting. So I made an after action report after my first property. If I could do it better, I would do this, this, and this. And then the one thing that I wrote about it was, I wish I bought the place worse. Like, I wish I bought a worse place so I could put money into it, so I could force like equity in the property. So I took that,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took the whole thought process of, I can't have a multifamily, so I'm gonna have to buy a single family home. So people are lazy. People don't want to like renovate a house, and like, all you do is change the floors out, paint the walls, paint the cabinets, change a different countertop, change the fixtures, and that's it. You're not knocking down walls. The majority of the time, you're just putting something over it, painting it, making it look modern, and that's it. So I bought a house that was built in like 1970, 4 bed, 2 bath, 2,400 square feet, and it had a detached 700 square foot garage that I was like, that could be a house. I was like, man, if I could just, because it had separate utilities and everything, all I needed was like water to go in there for a shower, and a sink for the bathroom, sink for the kitchen, yada, yada, yada. And I could put like a hot plate up top for a stove, and then a fridge, easy. And then a washer and dryer. Just put a connection, and then like a 240-volt outlet for that. I'm like, that is a studio garage, 700 square feet. And I could put my Viper in there, because when I finished flight school, I was being a very responsible adult, paid off all my student loan debt, yada, yada, yada. And that's what you can do when you don't pay housing for 2-3 years. You can throw it all on student loans, and hey, bam, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I don't need Biden for it. Let's go. Uh, and I ended up moving to that place. I lived in there. I paid a mortgage for like 7 months. Ugh, gross, dog. Let me tell you, the worst thing ever. And then when I was there, I was like, bro, this house is massive. Like, I don't understand how people can buy these big houses and move in here, because I had that 700 square foot garage, and then I moved into a house that was 3 times the size. And literally, all I would just literally, it was like a split level, so it was basically like a basement, half basement thing. So all I would do was in the office down there, and in my bedroom, and then the kitchen, and the rest of the top floor, living room, kitchen, like, or dining area, never put any furniture in it. It was literally just me in a giant house by myself for like 6 months, and I was like, this is dumb. I need to convert this garage into like a place I can stay at, because there's just too much space, and I'm not about to furnish this entire house, because
Yeah.
I don't like. There's no point. I ain't got no kids. I don't have a wife yet. Like, whatever. I think around that time, I met my girlfriend, now wife, and I was like, hey, baby, let me pitch you on an idea. And I was like, hey, I'm paying like, I think it was like, I bought it for like 160. That goes to show how crazy the pandemic was. I bought it for like 160, and then I knew I could put the walls up for bathroom, kitchen, put the kitchen countertops in there, kitchen, little cabinets, and then like the shower, all that stuff, and the washing dryer connections. I could put that in for like 10 grand. So like, my thought process, I'm gonna be here for another 3 years. I'll save $36,000 in housing over the next 3 years that I can throw into Bitcoin and another property, yada yada yada. Like, and then I get to not pay any rent, and then you can move in here, and then we'll have a 7 square foot garage, and then we get an opportunity to renovate this little studio garage, like at the house, yada yada, a little fun project. And that's how I knew my wife was going to be my wife. And she's like, yeah, that sounds great, baby. That makes complete sense. And I was like, bam, Cash Money Records right there. Come here. Yeah, sure. Come here. We making something shake. Like, you okay? Because the usual response would be like, I don't want to live in it. Da, 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 da. I'm like, well, I mean, what's the difference? Like, you know, it's
Nah,
just going to have a garage. It's gonna have a garage door, like have 2 garage doors in the front, but the rest of it's just basically gonna be like a modern studio garage, concrete floors. Like, it's gonna be a very modern looking thing with like quartz granite countertops. I'm like, only thing is it has garage doors in the front. That's the only difference. But I don't want. I'm like, all right, cool. You know, I was gonna do it anyways, but I'm glad she was just like she was cool with it, because hey, you know, hey, at the end of the day, it's not about for personal comfort now. It's about kids, future growth, you know, future success, all that good stuff. So I ended up spending like 10 grand to put like the plumbing in there, to put the walls up for the bathroom, and then I put the kitchen, yada yada yada. And then I just painted everything, put like different lighting in there, and then I moved the tenant in. And I think what my mortgage is like $1,100, and I think I charged the tenant like 1,600 to move into the 4-bed 2-bath place next door, like the main house, and I lived for free next door. And then that was it. And then I cut out completely my housing expense again, and then done deal. Like, wham, bam, thank you, man. I'm chilling. And the funny part was, I probably say, I don't know if you can like post the thing, but I'll show you like a photo of like, I had like my Viper, like I took up like a quarter of like the garage space, because I ain't about to let that outside, you know? So every day I would wake up next to my beautiful wife, and then freaking my Viper there. I'm like, oh, oh man, this is like every bachelor's dream right now. I got the supercar. You're like, oh, this is great. And not spending any money. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll find a way to get that picture so people can see it for this episode.
Yeah. It was great.
Make sure, send that to me, and I'll figure out how to get it on the video.
So that's how kept expenses low, invested the difference. You know, things been working out. Like, now I'm selling that place at the end of I think probably we're posting July 1st with trust, and then I'm hoping to get like maybe 40-50 grand before the market gets too bad, and then put that in you know, other assets. You know, pivot from things that are high to pivot to things that are bleeding low, and then wait for it to balance out, and then, you know, keep that going. So
yeah,
that worked out.
I'm glad that you were able to show that story, because I know there's a lot of people who had opportunities to make decisions like that, but couldn't see past the now, right? I really don't want to be in here. And, you know, even though now you, a couple of years later, is in a far better position from making that decision than you would have by, you know, allowing yourself to just stay within your comfort zone or do something, because it's like, people gonna look at me funny. Like, bro, I know for a fact you didn't care about what anyone was going to think about what you moving the garage, bro. I don't care.
I know I make more money and have more money than any of them. So it's just like, I don't really care. Like, bro, like, you know, like, I do not care, because at the end of the day, a lot of people want to look like they want to have something, but at the end of the day, I know they don't. Like, you know, like, I know basic math. I can look at your lifestyle and be like, you spend about 3-4 whatever a month on that, and you make less than me. So I'm like, how are you with less than me, like spending more than me and not doing anything with it? Because I remember when I was talking to Trust, he was saying like, I don't want to spend money on a car or because I know that my big homie Brian makes like 30 mil a year, and he doesn't even spend the money on that. So why would I, something that makes far less, 0.1% of it, have the need to spend my money on that? And I'm like, that is very correct. Because the people that really have it, like, I always see, like, I remember when I used to be on Instagram or something a lot, like, people put like a post that says brag different. And then it'd be like a dude with like a Gucci belt. I'm like, that belt's like $400. Like, that's whatever. Like, that doesn't matter. Yeah. You got any cribs? You got anything of value? No, you don't brag different. You brag like every other 80% person that really don't do nothing with anything, because they blow it all on Gucci belts, you know?
Yep.
Like, unless you ridiculously have it or really truly have it, and you have no need to lack in anything, then like, go for it. But the vast majority, 90% of people don't got it like that, you know, but they're just trying to look like they do. So that's why you shouldn't really care about what anybody. You should only care about people whose opinion you care about Yeah, basically it. You should only care about people whose opinion you care about as to like how it should affect your decision. Like if I respect somebody, if somebody tells me like, "Oh, why are you living in a garage?" But like they're a bum, why would I care?
Right.
Why should you care? If you respect somebody's opinion because they're a great human being, they're doing all the right actionable process, they're a good father, yada yada yada, and they're saying you're doing something wrong, like, oh, you should like reflect on it. I'm like, oh, that's yeah, I probably shouldn't be doing that. You're right. Like, why would I X X and X? But then you
Yeah.
should always take people's criticism because you might be your head in the cloud, and somebody might say like some criticism to try and be a hater. You should always still look at it and self-reflect a little bit and be like, okay, is there truth to this? Is there a nugget in that? Like, oh, he's kind of right. Like, dang, all right, cool, you're right. Sorry, dude. I mean, you move
That's a
differently based on that, but it all
yeah.
depends.
That's a good point, because I know me and Trust actually talked one time about so one of the things like I try to practice, and I'm pretty sure I learned it from him a long time ago, is like, when people give you advice, like I always just listen. I don't ever tell them I know anything. Even if I know it, I still let them give it, because he was, once if
You
you
never know.
tell a person like, hey, I know this, they're going to assume, oh, this person already has the information. And that's going to be the time you miss something they could have gave you that could help you. So it's like anytime somebody, I don't care if
Yeah,
I know every word they're saying, I sit there and act like I never heard it before. And then,
yeah,
I pull out, maybe there's something I could pull out for myself later on that does work, but I'm not going to turn down anybody, because I don't want
yeah,
them, when they do have something that could be valuable, to be like, oh, he probably already knows this. And I think that's
yeah,
something for people to learn and practice as well.
yeah. At the end of the day, everybody's living their own life experience. So like in their 30 years of life or whatever, they might have had like a 5-second nugget or like, oh, damn, and like through their 30 years of life, they might have just saved the 30 years of looking and just gave it to you right there. So always just listen to people, like you never
Yeah.
know. You don't know what you don't know. Like, and like, it might just be that catalyst of an idea that like, Eric said that. I'm like, boom, like, and you're on a Google train for the next 26 days. Like, just like, man, you said that one thing. I'm like,
That's how
what
it
do you
worked
like?
too.
Did he mean? And that's exactly how it rolls all the time. Or somebody will say something and I'll just go off on I'm gonna go on a deep search of just like looking at random things like infinite banking, velocity banking. And I'm like, and I spent like half of my deployment looking at velocity banking, infinity
Oh,
banking,
I've
life
spent
insurance videos. Like, dude, like
hours,
I'm
because the
like, huh,
velocity
that's not
banking
a
thing
bad
is
idea.
actually a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, I was like, that's not bad. But I just haven't seen anybody. That's the thing. We're like, I haven't seen anybody do it because I see all
Mm-hmm.
these people say negative comments about whole universal life insurance, yada yada yada, being a scam and da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel like locking up 200 grand and I can't get it out, or it might not be a good play. I know for sure I can do this and make money, and I don't have any solid commitments, contractual obligations to it. So I'd rather just not. But if I see somebody that I know, like that I respect, I'm like, I do it and it works great. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm gonna go all in on it. But until I see somebody with like a vested interest that I know and respect, I'm like, I'm not gonna bother doing it. But whatever. Especially with crypto now with DeFi, you can just do infinity banking without like putting yourself up on life insurance things. So I would rather just do that by
Yeah.
signing an obligation to New York Mutual or something like that and trying to finagle with them. So
So
yeah,
another question for you. And I know we talked about this before, but
yeah,
the
but yeah.
concept of people seeking advice or help from you, and you just turning around and finding out that the time you took to spend teaching them or telling
Was
them is
wasted.
wasted. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I feel like the people that watch this and know me, uh, what's the word for it? They would say that I'm rough around the edges or I'm very blunt, and the way that I always explain it is like I would rather get straight to the point and tell you the truth so you can, you know, pivot from that information than me just waste your time and be nice and beat around the bushes and not give you like let's say us in our friendship and trust and everybody, like if we're messing something up, you will sternly be like, bro, what the heck are you doing? And like
Yeah.
just cut as deep as you can so you can be like, a word, like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. And then like you pivot. You're an adult, you're a man, you're gonna pivot and you're gonna handle your business like XX and X said that. I can trust their perspective. I'm not gonna be soft and like, oh, they said this, how dare they, man, trying to disrespect me. And they're like, no, it's like, hey, like, obviously we care about you. We want you to be the best person you can be. You're ruining all of this. You should not do that, and
You know, you
adjust accordingly.
you did that to me one day in the kid. I remember you was in there. You was like, hey, bro, you gotta like you getting a gut. You need to fix that. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
Let me get in the gym. All right. Like, and it was like,
Most
you're
people
right.
be like, man, no. I'm like, forget it. Just keep on. It's like somebody's like an alcoholic, and you just keep enabling them to do bad. Even obviously, it's not to the same extent, but it's like, one of your friends is doing poorly. Why would you not address it? And why, as a man, would you feel bad or not feel bad? Because you should feel some type of shame or badness so you can change. Because if you don't feel shame, you're not going to change. But like, you should move correctly because people are saying things not because they want to hurt you, but because they want you to be better or stuff like that. So yeah, I'm glad you take it for what it's worth. Because like I never in my life do things to make people like, I just want them to feel bad. It's like, bro, I see potential in you and I want you to do better. I'm pretty sure nobody else has told you this because the vast majority of people are just like sugar like coat stuff and then bounce around it and not give you the actual answer. So I'm gonna be the one to tell you, hey, you probably shouldn't do that because X, X, and X. And either you take it like an adult or you just, put the blinders on and like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you just keep sabotaging your life. But I forgot what the initial question of that was.
So initial question was like talking about people talking about people who,
not taking advice, or you
yeah.
ask for advice tonight. Yeah. So in the beginning of real estate and like being in my financial journey, yada yada yada, like I wanted to, like I felt like I unlocked with all of my research, I feel like I unlocked like a cheat code. I was like, bro, we can all, if you want to make money, be wealthy, and like put our families up forever. People talk about generational wealth, yada yada yada, all those buzzwords that people want to say. But then, what the hell? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's calling my phone or something. Oh, but people talk about generational curses, something like that, and like trying to make the right actionable processes, and then they won't want to do anything about it. So, me being me, and I want to help people. I'm like, yo, I just bought this real estate. People are like, hey, dog, I want to learn about like. And then you'll spend like an hour, 2-3 hours teaching them everything. Like, like you spent days, months, friggin' a year, like allocating and putting together information, either from you buying the place and then you messing something up and having to spend $5,000 to fix something. And you trying to get all those shortcuts that you would have wanted to know, and you try and pour into people. And then they don't do anything with it. And it's like, I just spent like the precious commodity anybody has is their time. Because once it's gone, you can't buy it. You can't pray it back. Ain't nothing you can do besides your time. So for somebody to, like when I was doing this, nobody was helping me. It was literally through sheer perseverance and just wanting to do better. I found the answers with my own money, with my own time. And then when you go to somebody who has done that in spades and like, hey, I want to know about this. I'm like, and then you don't do anything with it. That's like the most spit in the face thing ever. So after a while, I just stopped doing it. I was like, man, I'm good. I'll be like, hey, biggerpockets.com, YouTube, that's how I did it. Peace. Have fun with it. And that's basically where I'm at with it now. Because you're just wasting, like people want to do a lot of things, but people just don't do a lot of things. Like people aren't gonna, like I remember my LB Nick, he took a like $40 a month Google certification course, and he makes like 100, like he makes more money than I do, and he's younger than me, and he sells Google Cloud. And he's like, bro, like I didn't even go to school for this. All I took was this course, a certification, and I sell it. That's it. And everybody else can do it. All they need to do is pay for this course and self-study and get the certification and get some sales experience, and they can do the same thing. And he's like 26, 25, making like between 100, 200 grand a year, yada, and more, like once he gets more experience in this. And he'll try and same thing. He's like, he tells me like, oh, I understand now what you were talking about when like, real estate, because like I would tell people this, and then I would tell them exactly how to do it, and not a single person does it. And I'm just like, it's like, bro, that's how it is. Like people want to do all this stuff, but whether they do it or not is, it's completely up to them. Like you can't want something more than people want it themselves. I want people to kill it, make bread, and do but people aren't. People aren't going to take that actionable process to get in shape, to like cut on calories, to do all the things you're supposed to do. But people are going to post away on Instagram about like, once I lose this 20 pounds, you can't like people just keep talking about things, but they'll never make the actionable progress to actually be real that they want to be. And they'll probably throw stones at the people that do. Like, oh, why does Elon Musk have $300 billion. I'm like, because he's been working for the past 20, 30 years and he's created $1 trillion worth of value to the world. That's just how it works. Like if you want to, if you want to do that, if you want to make an electric car company and you can too. If you do, more power to you, you'll be just rich as him. But if you can't, that's kind of how it works. If you want to have a great body, be in shape, eat the right things, work out every day, you can do it, but you don't. So that's like, if you want to be rich, do X, X, and X. The people like sell courses, it's all online for free. You can look at it, but you don't do it. So cool. So you're not. Like, it's all the same thing. So now it's basically either you pay me to talk to you because now there's actual value, you're actually a value set to my life, or like I see somebody else that's actually done the work a little bit. Like I bought my own place. I'm cool. So you know the struggle. You've done something. You're a self-starter at
You've
very
taken a
bare
step.
minimum.
You've taken a
You've done
step.
something by yourself, so you actually can appreciate and do something with it. But if not, you're just another wannabe, or like you're just some random person. Like I'm a brand new person trying to do this. I'm like, cool, well, do something, and then people will actually help you out. Because once the hardest part is starting, you just got to keep going. Because then, like, you know, when I say winners win, like if somebody has 20 properties, like people are gonna want to talk to that guy because he's been through a lot of struggle. He's persevered. He's figured it out. He's made decent decisions. So they're gonna keep helping him out. But nobody cares, or nobody's gonna want to help the new person because they haven't done anything besides want something. And nobody cares about what you want. People care about what you do and what you can provide to this world as a whole. That's my rant about that.
That's real. Now that's real. That's a good point. And then, you know, so before we kind of wrap it up today, like if you had, you know, one thing you wanted to leave the listeners with, you know, so say it's like, you know, people who may be looking to do some things to get their finances in order, or start, you know, moving towards building wealth for their family and future generations. Like what are the things that you think would be most important for them to start doing today in order to start doing that?
I would say, I remember there's like a book like First Find Your Why, and that's how I'm gonna throw out there. It's like, why do you want to do any of it? Because like if you don't have a decent why, you're not gonna do the rest of the work, you know? Like are you saying like, oh, I don't want to lose, like your example of you have clients that don't want to stop spending money to go out. I'm like, well, you don't have a good enough reason to. That's why. Like if you think about the food that like the money you're spending now that you could give to your grandkids, or like the opportunity you can give to people, things will be a lot easier, you know? Yeah. Like if I'm a pre-diabetic and I know if I keep eating bad food and bad like soda and everything, that I'm gonna be diabetic and I'm gonna have to cut my feet off eventually, some of that, I'm gonna probably stop eating bad food. There's a good enough why for that. But if you don't have a good enough reason, you know, there's not a good driver enough. If it's not to improve like your people culturally, like socially, like financially, and just be the aggregate or the catalyst for people around you to do better, if you don't want to do that, you're not. So like if you don't have a good enough reason, like what am I here for? What am I on this earth to do? Then you're just gonna keep going to the club, buying bottles, turning up every weekend, and you're not gonna pour into your kids or your family like you're supposed to. And you're gonna keep getting more generational curse and all the negative stuff people keep crying about because they themselves don't want to be the starter to it, or like, oh, my parents didn't give me cool. Like, it's not your fault that you were born in poverty. It's your fault if you end in poverty though, because like if you're somehow 65, 70 years old and you're still poor, you spent 70 years, 7 decades of bad decisions of what you could have done to like change your life around. So find your why. And once you find your why, it's gonna lead you, or it's gonna give you that fire to do what you need to do instead of what you want to do. You know, like I don't know. As long as it's like the ambition. Like your why is your ambition as to what you want to do. And if you have the ambition to do something, ain't nobody gonna stop you, because human beings are the smartest things, you know, to figure out weird problems like on this earth. Like you put a man on a mission that he's truly driven to, and you can't break his will. He's gonna find how to figure something out. So find out your why, find out people that can help you, get a coach, like that people have the answers, because, you know, that'll just, you know, like I said, the most precious commodity is time. And if you get a coach, they'll literally just tell you all the answers, like, hey, just do this, this, and this. And then do the things that they say. Because if not, like, hey, at this point, you just pay for somebody to tell you what you need to do, and then you're just willfully throwing your money away, and then you're not doing anything with it. So you just like, what's the point? So yeah, I'd say that. Like find out why you want to do it, find out people that can help you do it. and just, and just take life for what comes. Like there's like this one Nipsey Hussle quote. I remember I had this trucking company, and it's like, life ain't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. Like when you're doing something difficult, that's when, you're doing like the right actionable processes. And that's when you're like growing, because you're testing like your max limit. It's like working out. Like you're supposed to try hard, because then the more you try, the bigger you get, the stronger you get, and the more you can take on. Or like, what was it? It's like, don't pray for an easier life, pray for bigger shoulders to bear it. Because like the bigger burdens you can bear, the bigger problems you can bear, the more you usually get paid. Because like, $1 million problem is going to get you paid more than a $7.25 an hour problem. So, get better at struggling and being able to bear stronger loads. So that's my long answer.
All right.
So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Like J. Cole said, there's beauty in the struggle. So that's
man,
real,
it is,
man.
man. Because like, tell your story to your kids, like, there I was, man, I'm $75 million in debt, man, and I was fighting the bank trying to figure it out. Like, that's a cool story, man.
Yeah.
Who wants to tell the story of like, man, I was still, there I was, I needed $70 to make rent. I'm like, man, that's the wackest story ever. That's you and everybody else. Like, man, you better do better.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather be worried about how am I going to pay this $70 million mortgage than pay like, oh my, I missed my car payment. My man, they're gonna take my Toyota Avalon. I'm like, that just sounds whack. Like as a man, that's not what you want to say. Like you better get some big problems and solve big problems so you can get
I like
paid
that.
for them.
I like that.
Yeah, get bigger problems, bro.
Get bigger problems so you can solve bigger problems. I like that's
yeah.
We might have to make that the name of this episode.
Yeah, man.
But
big bars, bro. Big bars.
I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. Great conversation. And I know there's going to be people who get a lot from this conversation. Hopefully it motivates some people to get started on some things they may have been procrastinating with. So as everyone knows, the show was brought to you by In the Smoker. So you can go to www.inthesmoker.com to check out, my course. If you want to set up some consultations for a coaching to figure out something with your personal finances, or a consultation to, look at your credit and see how that's going, you can go there and do those things. You can also go to Amazon and you can purchase my book, The In the Smoker Mindset, as well. It goes into the process or the mindset behind what keeps people from being financially free, as well as a mindset that you can adopt in order to become financially free. So, check those things out. I think I mentioned my budgeting course. If I didn't, I'll mention it again because I'm very proud of it. But you can get my budgeting course on my website as well. You can also see it on my Instagram, which is at In the Smoker, and it's also on the Facebook, which is at In the Smoker. So if you're a person that's trying to figure yourself out and trying to move forward with your personal finances, come to In the Smoker and let's get in the smoker. All right. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Finance Bro today. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Let's get in the smoker.